Do you know that feeling when you just had a big meal, but an hour later your brain is already screaming, "I'm starving"? It sounds crazy, but right now your body may be carrying enough stored energy to survive for weeks, while your brain is completely convinced that you're on the edge of starvation. How is that even possible? It's like a system glitch in the most complex computer on the planet, the human body. Imagine your car's fuel tank is completely full, but the indicator on the dashboard is glowing bright red, showing that there is no fuel left. You press the gas pedal, but the car limits its power and pushes you to look for a gas station because the system believes the tank is empty. But it's important to understand one thing. This is not a lack of willpower, it's not a lack of discipline, and it's not laziness. It's a malfunction in the body's regulatory system happening deep inside your biology. You cannot simply negotiate with this feeling of hunger using willpower because it begins in parts of the brain that your conscious mind cannot control. This is not psychology, it's biology. Inside your body, there is an automatic mechanism that once helped humanity survive. For 99% of our species' history, food was rare and often a matter of luck. Humans evolved in conditions of extreme scarcity, where survival depended on storing every possible calorie and wasting as little energy as possible. Our bodies are true champions of survival in an ice age world. But in modern conditions, this same system has turned into a trap. We have become victims of our own success. We created a world of abundance that our ancient biology was never designed for. The main problem with how we think about fat is that we've been taught to see it as something passive. We imagine it as nothing more than extra flab hanging around the belly, making it harder to button our jeans. But in reality, it's a powerful and highly active chemical command center. Over the past few decades, science has completely changed the way we understand body fat. Today, fat tissue is officially recognized as a major endocrine or hormone-producing organ in the human body. It doesn't just sit there, it works. It functions as a complex control center, producing dozens of signaling molecules that influence the entire body, from your mood and stress levels to your heart rate and the quality of your sleep. Your fat tissue is constantly talking to your immune system, your blood vessels, and most importantly, directly to your brain. It's a non-stop stream of information that helps determine how you feel every single minute. One of the key players in this communication is a hormone called leptin. Its job is to act as a high-level messenger. Leptin is produced by fat cells in proportion to their size. The more fat you have, the more leptin enters the bloodstream. This hormone travels to the hypothalamus, an ancient part of the brain responsible for basic survival instincts. Leptin's mission is simple: to report to the brain how much stored energy the body has. In an ideal situation, this system maintains perfect balance. The brain sees the signal and says, "Okay, there's plenty of leptin. That means the body already has enough stored energy." In response, it reduces hunger and signals the thyroid and the muscles to work a little harder, burning off the excess. It's like a biological thermostat that, under normal conditions, is designed to keep your body weight stable for decades. But when the amount of body fat crosses a critical threshold, the system begins to break down. Imagine turning the music up to full volume in a small room. At first, you hear everything clearly, but after an hour, you start getting used to it. After 2 hours, your ears stop noticing the fine details of the sound. They simply adapt to the noise to protect themselves. Something very similar happens in your brain. When there is a significant excess of body fat, the level of leptin in the blood becomes abnormally high and stays that way constantly. At some point, the brain's receptors begin to go deaf to this signal. To protect itself from overload, the brain reduces its sensitivity to leptin. This condition is called leptin resistance, something scientists sometimes describe as brain blindness. Your control center stops recognizing the real amount of stored energy in your body. For the hypothalamus, the high level of leptin becomes background noise that it no longer notices. And then something even more troubling happens. The brain begins to act as if there is no leptin at all. For our ancient biology, no leptin means only one thing: starvation. The body believes it is in serious danger. The system starts behaving as if you were stranded in the middle of a desert with no food. But in reality, your body may still be carrying dozens of pounds of stored energy. Your body sends powerful hunger signals because it can no longer correctly read its own energy reserves. Hunger becomes overwhelming. Metabolism slows down to to a minimum in an attempt to save your life, and the body begins aggressively storing every calorie, even if you are eating very little. This is not magic, and it is not a curse. It's broken biochemistry. Why do we break this perfectly designed system so easily? To understand that, we need to look at how the modern world hijacks our dopamine system. For millions of years of evolution, our brains learned to reward us for finding high-calorie food. Sweet and fatty foods were extremely rare in nature. If one of our prehistoric ancestors found a tree full of wild honey or the fatty meat of an animal, the brain would release a massive surge of dopamine. It was a clear command: eat as much as you can right now. Tomorrow, there may be no food. But today, the food industry has learned to use this mechanism against us. Companies design products around what scientists call the bliss point. It's a carefully engineered combination of sugar, salt, and fat that almost never exists in nature. This combination hits the brain like a hacking attack. It triggers such a powerful dopamine response that the normal appetite control system begins to shut down. Your smartphone has turned into an endless horn of plenty. Food delivery in 15 minutes is something our prehistoric ancestors could never have imagined. A paradox has emerged. Ancient survival instincts have collided with an artificial and aggressive world of abundance. We are programmed to search for calories, but we don't have a biological safety switch that says stop when food is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In many ways, we are literally overeating our own evolutionary programming. Many people think fat is just a cosmetic problem, something you can pinch around your waist. But inside the body, fat can accumulate in very different and sometimes alarming ways. There is subcutaneous fat, the fat under your skin. It acts as natural insulation and a soft energy reserve. In moderate amounts, it's relatively safe and even performs important functions. But there is another, far more dangerous player: visceral fat. It hides deep inside the body. You can't clearly see it from the outside, but it wraps around your liver, pancreas, kidneys, and even your heart. Visceral fat is not just a storage site. It behaves more like a toxic chemical factory. This deep fat is extremely biologically active. It is directly connected to the portal vein that leads to the liver. From there, it constantly releases free fatty acids and cytokines into the bloodstream, aggressive molecules that promote inflammation. Over time, a quiet and almost invisible fire begins to burn inside your body. Doctors call this chronic low-grade systemic inflammation. You don't have a fever and you don't feel any sharp pain, but this invisible fire slowly, day by day, damages your blood vessels from the inside. It changes the chemistry of your blood and gradually begins to reprogram your entire metabolic system, laying the groundwork for serious diseases. When fat cells, also called adipocytes, become overloaded with energy, they begin to behave like people trapped in an overcrowded elevator. There is no space left and not enough oxygen. The cells become stressed, and eventually, some of them begin to die. The death of fat cells sends an alarm signal to the immune system. Macrophages, the body's cleanup cells, rush into the fat tissue. They try to solve the problem, but in obesity, their numbers become too large. The fat tissue turns into a battlefield. Instead of helping, immune cells begin releasing even more inflammatory signals. At this point, another key hormone enters the picture: insulin. If leptin is the messenger, insulin is the molecular key. When you eat, the level of sugar in your blood rises. The pancreas releases insulin, which is supposed to reach the cells, unlock them, and allow glucose to enter so it can be used for energy. But under the pressure of chronic inflammation and excess fat, this lock begins to jam. Cells become exhausted from the constant presence of sugar and high insulin levels. They start ignoring the signal. It's like someone knocking on your door 24 hours a day. Eventually, you simply stop opening it. This condition is called insulin resistance. Glucose remains in the bloodstream, damaging the walls of blood vessels, while the cells themselves are effectively starving because they cannot access the fuel they need. The pancreas sees that blood sugar is still high and begins working overtime. It produces 5 or even 10 times more insulin, trying to break through the resistance of the tissue. This exhausting metabolic marathon can continue for years until the system eventually reaches a point of no return. When the pancreas can no longer compensate for the resistance of the cells, type 2 diabetes develops. But this is only the tip of the iceberg. Chronically high levels of sugar and insulin begin to act on the body like a slow poison. Imagine trillions of tiny, sharp shards of glass floating through your bloodstream. That is what excess glucose does to the inner lining of your blood vessels, the endothelium. Arteries begin to lose their elasticity. They become fragile and inflamed. To repair these tiny injuries, the body uses cholesterol, forming plaques. This is how atherosclerosis begins. The heart, forced to pump blood through narrowed and stiff vessels, starts working under enormous strain. Blood pressure rises. The kidneys, which filter this sugar-rich blood, slowly begin to break down. The risk of heart attack, stroke, and organ failure becomes not just a possibility, but a matter of time. The most dangerous part is how quietly this process develops. You might feel mild fatigue, slight shortness of breath when climbing stairs, or trouble concentrating. You blame it on age or stress at work. But in reality, your body may already be in a state of metabolic overload, working at 120% of its normal capacity just to keep you alive. But I'm not here to leave you with a feeling of hopelessness. Our biology, even though it is ancient, has an incredible property: plasticity. Your body is not a static machine. It is a living process that constantly strives to heal and restore itself. The ability to recover is built into us just as deeply as the instinct to store fat. The moment you change the conditions, when you stop bombarding your system with excess calories and give it time to clean up, your body begins a remarkable internal reconstruction. What happens when you start taking action? First, insulin levels begin to fall. As soon as this happens, the body regains access to its locked fat reserves. The lock opens, and you finally begin using your stored fat as fuel. Second, inflammation in the tissues begins to calm down. The immune system settles, and blood vessels get the chance to repair their walls. Third, your brain starts to hear again. Sensitivity to leptin does not return overnight, but gradually the fog of metabolic blindness begins to clear. You may suddenly notice that you feel full with smaller portions, and that food no longer dominates your thoughts 24 hours a day. This process of recovery is not just about losing weight. It is about regaining control. It is a reboot of your biological code. Hormonal pathways that have been stuck in emergency mode for years slowly return to a normal, balanced rhythm. Obesity is not a life sentence. It is not a mark on your character, and it is not a sign of weak willpower. It is a complex biological drama, the result of a collision between Stone Age biology and 21st century technology. We live in the bodies of hunter-gatherers, trapped in a world of endless food delivery and sedentary work. But understanding how this mechanism works changes everything, because when you understand the algorithm, you stop being its slave. Knowledge turns chaos and fear into a clear system you can navigate, and a system you understand can always be adjusted. You are no longer a prisoner of your instincts. You are the engineer of your own biology. Understanding how fat communicates with your brain, how insulin unlocks the doors of your cells, and how the quiet fire of inflammation slowly drains your strength. This knowledge becomes your most powerful tool for protecting your health. This is the first and most important step. Now that you understand what is happening inside your body, you have the opportunity to take control again. Your body is waiting for you to act. It has a remarkable capacity to recover, and it is ready to reward you with years of healthy, active, and energetic life. You are not your excess weight. You are the mind capable of rebuilding its own home.